You are not alone. You are without an audience. There is a difference. The loneliness that gnaws at you today is the same terrain where hard men forge authority. Machiavelli wouldn't offer you solace. He would offer a method. Lock the door, silence the noise, and face, without anesthesia, what was left of you when they took away the applause. This is where power begins. When the phone goes silent, the mask falls. You realize how many decisions you made to please, how many routes you chose to be seen, how many alliances were actually polished collars. Loneliness exposes what the crowd masked: dependence, neediness, a rush to prove worth. And precisely because it hurts, it cleanses. It's a mirror without a filter. Look, if this has ever affected you, tell me in the comments. No drama. When was the last time you sought company to escape your own truth? The plan isn't to disappear to be sought after. It's to retreat, to rebuild. You trade conversation for a schedule, anxiety for ritual, a vow of self-pity for a vow of productive silence. Those who disappear to be applauded return smaller. Those who disappear to grow return with a receipt. And a receipt silences entire rooms. If this is the path you want to take, transforming emptiness into discipline and discipline into respect, sign up now and get in step. Today you will learn to use the darkness as a laboratory, the silence that wounds, the retreat that organizes, the small autonomy that hardens your posture, and the return that doesn't ask for a chair. It occupies one. This isn't self-help, it's risk engineering. Breathe. The door closes, the noise dies, and for the first time in a long time, you hear your own leadership arriving. The silence that hurts when loneliness exposes who you were. At first, loneliness feels like punishment. You call people who don't call back, text people who respond whenever you want, offer yourself to people who don't add up, and what you get in return is the feeling of being disposable. It's at this point that many rush to fill the void. Bars, parties, shallow conversation. But Machiavelli would say, don't run away. Loneliness is a mirror. The discomfort you feel isn't the absence of others. It's an excess of yourself, naked, without an audience to confirm who you pretend to be. It's in this space that the hardest truths emerge. How much of your life was governed by dependency? How much of your energy was spent trying to be accepted? How much of your strength was actually borrowed from those around you? And it's also in this space that the first spark of power is born. Not power over others, yet power over yourself. The discipline is simple, yet lethal. Set aside 1 hour a day for 7 days, without screens, without distractions, just paper and silence. Write. Let the discomfort bleed until it reveals what has always been hidden. What 3 weaknesses does silence reveal to you? Dependence on validation, inability to make decisions without advice, fear of losing your place in groups that don't value you. Name them. What has a name can be cut. Consider the metaphor of a dark room. At first you see nothing, and fear takes over. But over time, your eyes adapt. You begin to see shapes, then contours, then details you never would have seen in bright light. Silence does this. It reveals what the brightness of noise hid. Don't confuse this process with eternal isolation. It's a ritual. You allow yourself to feel the pain, but not to consume yourself in it. It's to learn to use it as a lens. When silence reveals your fragility, don't complain. Be grateful. It's the only way to know where you need to draw strength from. And if this resonates with you, answer here in the comments. What's the biggest truth silence has ever thrown in your face, but which you tried to disguise? This confession is the first step toward transforming solitude into a laboratory of authority. Because from this point on, Retreat ceases to be an escape. It becomes a strategy. Strategic retreat. Disappear to grow, not to punish. Many people use distancing as emotional blackmail. They disappear, hoping to be sought out, leaving silence as bait, hoping they'll be noticed. But the effect is the opposite. What begins as a test of loyalty ends as resentment. Those who disappear only to be sought after return, diminished, dependent on the other person's reaction. True retreat is different. It doesn't demand applause. It doesn't expect persecution. It is declared and enforced. You don't retreat to punish, but to grow. It's the difference between a lover who flees to provoke jealousy and a general who retreats to reorganize the troops. The former begs for attention. The latter prepares for victory. Machiavelli would remind us, announcing intention is part of strength. If you're going to retreat, make it a clear decree. In the coming weeks, I'm going to focus on X. I'll be available at such and such times, and otherwise, I'll stick to my plan. See the difference? There's no tantrums, no drama, no expectation of rescue. There's focus, and focus is always respected, even with grumbling. The metaphor is simple. A general who retreats isn't a coward. He's a strategist. He forgoes the immediate stage to return with more ammunition. The immature civilian thinks that staying visible is the only way to prove his strength. The strategist knows that disappearing can be the most efficient way to gain an advantage. Does the world read this as absence? Yes, but silent absence, when it returns with results, transforms the way others see it. You don't return as someone asking for a place, but as someone already holding something in their hands. What seemed like weakness reveals itself as calculation. What seemed like defeat reveals itself as reorganization. Take the test. Choose an area of your life, relationships, family, work, and practice a proclaimed retreat. Set a time, prioritize, and define a minimum window of contact. Continue without giving reasons. When you return, return with something concrete. This contrast between disciplined absence and a burdened return changes your position in the hierarchy. And if you've ever tried to disappear just to be noticed, and the result was feeling even smaller, write in the comments, what were you hoping to hear but never got? This reflection opens the door to the right question. What if disappearing wasn't to be searched for, but to make me come back stronger? This is where loneliness stops being a punishment and starts becoming a lifeline. Invisible self-reliance, small powers that harden your stance. Dependence weakens the voice. No matter how smart you are, if you always depend on someone's car, someone's money, someone's roof over your head, your voice enters a table already tilted against you. Every request becomes a concession. Every limit you try to impose can be revoked by the reminder that you are supported at some essential point. This is not love. It is not friendship. It is a silent debt, and debts erode respect. It is in solitude that healing is born, because alone you realize the extent of your fragility. And you also realize that you don't need to become independent of everything to regain your dignity. You just need to build small pockets of self-sufficiency, small fortresses that accumulate until you change your posture. Set aside an amount, no matter how small, that's just for you. It may be small, but it's yours. This amount changes the way you view those who previously financed your every step. Create an independent mobility route, whether it's public transportation or a plan B. The simple knowledge that you can move independently changes your body language. Establish a neutral space where you can exist without relying on anyone's goodwill. A room, a library, even a square. It doesn't matter. What matters is that there, for a few hours, you are your own person. These autonomies seem discreet, almost invisible, but they give you new strength. You realize you can say no without fear of retaliation, because part of your life no longer relies on external hands. The drawbridge is in place. You decide when to lower it, who deserves to cross, and how long it will stay open. And make no mistake, the world feels this change. The family that once asked you for endless favors notices that your schedule is no longer always available. The partner who treated you as a dependent begins to adjust. Colleagues realize that your speech no longer carries the weight of need. It's subtle, but it's real. Invisible self-sufficiency transforms even your silence into respect. If you've ever felt the humiliation of having your opinion dismissed because it depended on something basic, write in the comments. At what point in your life will you start installing your first drawbridge? This is the moment when solitude ceases to be weakness and becomes a laboratory of sovereignty, because it is from it that the iron return is born. Return of iron, when loneliness becomes capital. The fear of returning is real. After spending time away, you fear returning to society feeling diminished, defeated, as if you've been kicked out of the game. Your heart whispers, what if they don't accept me anymore? What if I don't fit in anywhere? This fear is legitimate, but it's also the voice of dependence, because those who return asking for a seat return as subjects. Those who return bearing trophies return as masters. Machiavelli would teach, return is not a plea, it's a demonstration. You don't reappear to be welcomed. You reappear with capital. It could be a course you completed, a skill you acquired, a project you started, a solidified personal discipline. It doesn't matter how small. What matters is that it's concrete. The difference is stark. Instead of saying, I need space, you show that you already occupy space. In practice, it's simple. Among friends, instead of coming back asking, shall we go out? I've been a bit absent. You say, I used this time to finish a course and start a project. Let's meet on such and such a day. With family, it's not, sorry for being away, I was feeling down. It's, I organized my finances in the last few weeks. Now I can help with X. Content is proof. Proof buys respect. The metaphor is clear. A warrior returning from battle doesn't ask for a seat at the table. He arrives with scars, trophies, stories that don't need to be adorned. His presence rearranges the atmosphere, not through rhetoric, but because he bears the evidence of having acted while others watched. He doesn't need to be invited. The table adjusts itself. This is the ultimate point of strategic solitude, transforming absence into capital. You were, yes, alone, but it wasn't in vain. Every silence you kept became a map. Every autonomy you created became armor. Every retreat you proclaimed became an expanded territory. And when you return, no one sees a defeated person. They see someone who passed through the darkness and brought back a burning fire. Now it's your turn to apply. Think of something you can build during your next period of silence. Something that, upon your return, will be your proof, your trophy. Write in the comments what that capital will be. A skill, an achievement, a measure of autonomy. Because when you learn to return with iron in your hands, you'll never again enter a room as a beggar. You enter as an inevitable presence. And this is where solitude is fulfilled as a method. No longer emptiness, no longer punishment, but fertile ground where power takes root. Those who fear being alone will never be respected. Those who use solitude as a weapon will never need to demand respect. Loneliness isn't the absence of life. It's fertile ground. It exposes who you were, forces strategic retreat, teaches you small skills of self-sufficiency, and, if used with discipline, returns you to social life as someone who doesn't ask for a place, but occupies it. What once seemed like pain becomes a laboratory. What once seemed like abandonment becomes a shield. Machiavelli would understand this clearly. Whoever masters silence masters themselves. Whoever masters themselves never returns the same. The mistake is to use solitude as a stage for sorrow. Wisdom is to use it as an ironworks. You enter fragile, you leave armed. And remember, return isn't about proving you've endured. It's about showing what you've built. It's not about company, it's about capital. Friends, family, colleagues, everyone respects what's brought in hand more than what's ordered in mouth. The table doesn't open out of pity. It opens for results. The question remains, will you continue to flee from loneliness as if it were a curse? Or will you transform it into your secret fortress? Write in the comments what your next achievement will be, drawn from silence. Because only those who learn to be alone without losing themselves can return with power. And if this video brought clarity to the path, don't leave without subscribing. There are more lessons from Machiavelli waiting, not to comfort you, but to arm you. Because in the end, those who master solitude are never mastered again.